My mother-in-law called me lucky to live in that house. She said it with a smile. Of course. Margaret Carter never insulted anyone without making it sound like a compliment first. We were standing in my own kitchen on a Sunday evening, surrounded by roast chicken, green bean casserole, sweet tea, and old family photographs she had arranged on the counter like museum pieces.
It was the anniversary of my father-in-law's passings, so everyone was speaking softly, respectfully, the way families do when grief is old enough to become tradition. My husband, Daniel, stood beside the sink with his hands in his pockets. His sister, Sarah, was setting dessert plates on the dining table. Margaret lifted her glass and looked around the room.
Your father would be so proud, she said. This house is still in Carter hands. Everyone nodded. Then her eyes moved to me. And Emily has been fortunate to share in that history. Fortunate. Share. I remember those two words more clearly than anything else from that night. Not because they were shouted. Not because anyone gasped. Nobody even looked uncomfortable except maybe Daniel, and even he only looked down at his glass. That was the thing about being erased. It didn't always happen with cruelty loud enough for witnesses. Sometimes it happened politely, over dinner, while people passed butter and pretended not to hear the knife sliding between your ribs. I looked around that kitchen and saw everything Margaret didn't.
The sink, she complained, was too modern. I paid the plumber when the old pipes backed up 3 winters earlier. The roof over our heads? My credit was the reason. The bank approved the refinance that made those repairs possible. The property taxes she assumed Daniel handled? I was the one who called the county office, set up the payment plan, and sat on hold for 47 minutes while dinner burned in the oven.
Even the porch light glowing through the front window, the one Margaret loved because Daniel's father used to leave it on every night, had been rewired after I found the short behind the switch. But in that room, in that family, I was still treated like a woman Daniel had allowed to stay. Not his wife. Not the person who had helped hold the walls together. A guest. I waited for Daniel to say something. One sentence would have been enough. Mom, Emily is part of this house too. Or, actually, we kept it going together. I wasn't asking for a speech. I wasn't asking him to embarrass his mother on the anniversary of his father's death. I was asking my husband not to let me disappear. He said nothing. So I smiled because that was what I had trained myself to do in the Carter house. I smiled when Margaret corrected how I folded the napkins. I smiled when she moved my serving bowls back to the cabinet where Daniel's mother had always kept hers. I smiled when Sarah joked that I was still learning Carter traditions, even after 7 years of marriage. And most of all, I smiled whenever Daniel touched my lower back and whispered, "Don't take it personally." People say that when they want you to swallow something, they don't want to confront. For years, I swallowed it. I told myself Margaret was grieving. I told myself Daniel was caught in the middle. I told myself a house could belong to more than one story, even if only one story was ever told out loud. But that night, while Margaret talked about legacy and family roots and how Daniel had kept his father's home alive, I felt something inside me shift, not break. Breaking would have been louder. This was quieter than that. It was the sound of a woman finally understanding she had been helping people erase her. Because the truth was, that house had almost been lost 3 years earlier. Not sold. Not emotionally lost. Lost. The kind where letters arrive in white envelopes and nobody wants to open them. The kind where your husband sits at the kitchen table at midnight, staring at numbers that don't care about pride. The kind where a family legacy becomes less about memories and more about interest rates, overdue payments, and whether the bank believes you can still catch up. Daniel knew that. I knew that. The bank knew that. But Margaret didn't. Sarah didn't. And somewhere along the way, Daniel had decided that protecting his pride mattered more than telling the truth about my place in our home. I didn't confront anyone that night. I didn't throw papers across the table or ruin the dinner. That was never my style. Besides, I had learned a long time ago that anger gives people an excuse to ignore the facts. And I had facts. In my purse, under my chair, there was a sealed envelope from the mortgage company. I had picked it up from the mailbox that afternoon and carried it inside without opening it.
I don't know why I brought it to the dinner table. Maybe some part of me already knew.
Inside that envelope was a review notice with both our names printed clearly across the top.
Mine and Daniel's.
By the end of that week, his family would finally learn whose name had been helping hold their precious Carter house together.
But the part that changed me wasn't the mortgage paper. It was realizing my husband had known the truth the whole time. I did not move into the Carter house thinking I would have to earn my place there forever.
When Daniel first brought me to Wichita to see it, I thought it was beautiful, not perfect. The front steps dipped on the left side. The porch rail needed paint. The backyard fence leaned toward the neighbor's maple tree like it was tired of standing straight.
But it felt lived in. Daniel was proud of it. He stood in the driveway with one hand on my lower back, pointing things out like a tour guide.
My dad built that deck, he said. Not well, but he built it.
I laughed, and he smiled in that quiet way that used to make me feel safe.
Inside, the house smelled like lemon cleaner, old wood, and coffee. Family photos lined the hallway. Daniel as a boy, Sarah with missing front teeth, his parents under the porch light that would later become Margaret's favorite symbol of everything I was apparently borrowing.
At the time, I did not see it that way.
I saw a home. Maybe that was why I tried so hard. I grew up in rentals, duplexes, apartments, small houses with landlords who fixed nothing unless my mother called 3 times. I learned early not to get attached to walls because walls did not always stay yours.
So when Daniel asked me to marry him and later asked if I would be okay living in the house his father had left me, I said yes to that. I wanted roots, Sunday coffee in the same kitchen, a garden that came back every spring, a hallway I knew in the dark. For a while I thought I had found that. The first year was almost sweet. Daniel and I painted the guest room a pale blue that Margaret said was brighter than what Frank had chosen. Frank was Daniel's father. Margaret brought him into almost every decision, as if his memory still had played in it. I tried not to mind. She had lost her husband. This had been her home before it was mine. I told myself grief made people particular. At least, that was the explanation I kept giving her. The first time Margaret moved my serving bowls, I laughed it off. I had put them beside the stove. She moved them to the lower cabinet near the dining room.
"That's where we've always kept them," she said. It was such a small word, I should not have noticed it as much as I did. Daniel kissed my temple later and said, "Mom's just sentimental, don't take it personally." That became his favorite sentence. When Margaret told me the Christmas tree belonged by the front window because Carter houses have traditions, Daniel said not to take it personally. When Sarah joked that I was still in training after I used good plates for a barbecue, Daniel said not to take it personally. When Margaret introduced me to a neighbor as Daniel's wife Emily, she's still getting used to the house. 3 years after I moved in, Daniel squeezed my hand and said it again. "Don't take it personally." But that was the problem. It was personal. It was my kitchen, my weekends, my paychecks, my name on utility accounts, my knees aching after pulling weeds in a yard everyone still called his father's yard. I worked as a bookkeeper for a small construction company, which meant I spent my days catching mistakes before they became disasters. Missing invoices, late payments, numbers that looked harmless until you followed them far enough. At home, I did the same thing. I noticed when the insurance premium jumped. I noticed when Daniel stopped opening envelopes. I noticed when he got quiet checking the mortgage portal. The first real crack came after a spring storm tore shingles off the backside of the roof. Water leaked into the upstairs hallway, and Daniel sat at the kitchen table staring at the repair estimate like it had insulted him. "He'll figure it out," I said. He rubbed both hands over his face. "I don't want Mom knowing it's this tight." That should have told me something.
But back then, I thought protecting his pride was part of loving him. So I opened my laptop, I made calls, I built a spreadsheet, I shifted payments, checked rates, and found a way to keep things moving without Margaret hearing the word problem.
A few weeks later, she came over with a pound cake and told Daniel his father would be proud of how well he was keeping the house. Daniel smiled tightly. I waited for him to say my name. He didn't. And that was the first time the house felt colder with all the lights on. By the time I started seeing the pattern, I had already spent years calling it patience. That is the dangerous thing about small humiliations. One by one, they look survivable. You tell yourself it is just a comment, just a tradition, just an old woman missing her husband, just a tired man avoiding a fight. Then one day you realize you have been swallowing the same insult in different clothes. The first piece came from the roof. After the spring storm, I handled the calls because Daniel hated talking about money. I scheduled the contractor, compared estimates, shifted payments, and stayed late at work. When the crew finished, Margaret came over with Sarah to admire the shingles.
Your dad would be relieved, Margaret said to Daniel. You really took care of this place.
I stood behind them with the invoice folded in my purse. Daniel glanced at me just for a second, then looked back at the roof. Yeah, he said, it needed doing. That was all.
The second piece came during Thanksgiving.
Margaret wanted the dining room exactly the way it had been when Frank was alive. Same tablecloth, same serving dishes, same ceramic turkey. I spent 2 days cooking because Daniel said it would mean a lot.
Halfway through dinner, Sarah smiled at me and said, "You're getting better at the Carter way."
Everyone laughed lightly.
I laughed too. But later, while scraping plates, I heard Margaret tell Daniel, "It's sweet how hard she tries. Not how much she helps. Not how much she does. Tries." The third piece came from a letter I was not supposed to notice. It was from the county treasurer's office, tucked under a grocery flyer on the counter. Daniel had set his coffee mug on top of it like that made it invisible. I saw the red print through the paper. Past due.
What bothered me was how quickly Daniel reached for it when he saw me looking.
"I was going to handle it," he said. I just held out my hand. He hesitated before giving it to me.
That hesitation told me more than the letter did. He was not just worried, he was ashamed. His shame had become my job to manage.
I called the county office the next morning, set up a payment arrangement, and adjusted our budget. When I told Daniel it was done, he looked relieved enough to almost make me feel guilty.
"Please don't mention it to Mom," he said.
I stared at him. Why would I? He rubbed the back of his neck. She just doesn't need to know everything. At the time, I accepted that. Now I understand what he was really asking. He did not want his mother to know the house had needed saving. And he definitely did not want her to know I was the one saving it.
After that, I noticed everything.
When the insurance company called, they asked for me because I was the one who always followed up. But when Margaret asked about the claim, Daniel said, "I've got it under control." When the water heater failed, I used my bonus to cover the repair. A week later, Sarah called Daniel such a responsible homeowner. None of it was dramatic enough to point at and say, "This is the betrayal." That was the problem. It was not one broken promise. It was 100 little moments where Daniel could have made room for me and chose not to. 100 chances to say, "Emily is not good." Instead, he let silence do what silence always does. It protected the comfortable person, not the hurt one. One evening, my coworker Nina found me staring at our household budget. "You look like you're planning a bank robbery," she said. I smiled, but my eyes burned. Before I could stop myself, I told her about the roof, the taxes, the dinner, and the way Margaret spoke about the house like I was renting space in Sinner's memories.
Nina listened without interrupting.
Then she said, "Emily, there's a difference between being private and being erased." I wanted to argue. I could not. Because the moment she said it, something in me clicked into place. I had thought I was protecting Daniel's pride, Margaret's grief, Sarah's memories, Frank's legacy. But looking back, I could see the pattern clearly. Every time I helped, Daniel accepted it. Every time his family praised him for it, he let them. And every time I felt smaller in my own home, he asked me not to take it personally. That night, I drove home. Inside, Daniel was at the kitchen table, opening another envelope. The moment he saw me, he turned it over. And for the first time, I did not ask what it was. I already knew enough. The envelope stayed in my purse for 2 days.
That probably sounds strange. I had spent years opening bills before Daniel could hide them, checking due dates before they became problems, reading fine print the way other women read recipes. But that envelope felt different.
It sat there while I made coffee. It sat there while I drove to work. It sat there while Margaret texted Daniel about the memorial dinner menu and asked whether I remembered not to move Frank's chair from the head of the table. Frank had been dead for 6 years, and somehow he still had a better seat in my house than I did.
On Tuesday afternoon, I finally opened the envelope in my car during lunch break. I did it in the parking lot behind the construction office, with a vending machine sandwich in my lap and my phone face down on the passenger seat.
It was an annual mortgage review notice. Nothing dramatic. No red letters, no threat. Just pages of numbers, escrow adjustments, payments history, and both our names printed across the top. Daniel Carter. Emily Carter.
I stared at my name longer than I should have. Not because I had forgotten it was there. I knew what I had signed. I knew what we had done 3 years earlier when the roof, the taxes, and Daniel's reduced hours all hit at once. I knew my credit score had mattered. I knew my income had mattered.
What I had not known was how much of the paper trail still pointed back to me.
Primary contact. Payment arrangement confirmed. Escrow shortage resolved. Refinance assistance completed. Documentation received from Emily Carter.
Line after line, there I was.
The woman Margaret treated like a guest had been the person the bank called when the Carter house needed saving. I did not cry, not then. I felt too clear for that. I went back inside, finished payroll, smiled at 2 subcontractors, and waited until everyone left. Then I stayed at my desk and started building a timeline. That was what I knew how to do. When numbers got messy, I organized them. When people got emotional, I looked for dates. I pulled bank statements, repair invoices, county tax emails, insurance confirmations, and every message I could find from that year. I did not do it to punish Daniel. I did it because I needed to know whether my memory was exaggerating the pain.
It was not. The roof invoice had been paid from my savings account. The county payment plan had been arranged from my email.
The insurance claim listed me as the person authorized to discuss the repair. And then I found the message that made my stomach go cold. Daniel had forwarded one of the mortgage updates to his mother. The original email mentioned both of us. His forwarded version did not. He had written, "Don't worry, Mom, I've got the house handled."
I read that sentence 5 times.
Not we. Not Emily and I.
That one letter felt heavier than the whole envelope.
The next morning, I made an appointment with a housing counselor named Alan Pierce. I told Daniel I had a work errand. It was not exactly a lie. By then, keeping this marriage standing had become unpaid labor. Alan's office was in a small brick building near a strip mall, between a tax preparer and a place that sold used office furniture. He was kind in a tired, practical way, the kind of man who had seen too many families confuse shame with privacy. He looked through my documents slowly. "I can't speak to your marriage," he said finally. "But financially, yes, your involvement was significant. In several places. Essential."
Essential.
I almost laughed.
At home, I was still learning Carter traditions. At the bank, I was essential.
Before I left, Alan handed the folder back to me and said, "Whatever conversation you're planning, keep it simple. Dates, documents, boundaries. Don't argue feelings with people who benefit from misunderstanding them."
That stayed with me.
So I did not confront Daniel that night. I did not call Margaret. I did not send screenshots to Sarah or write some long message in anger. Instead, I made 3 copies of the timeline. One for me.
One for Daniel.
One for the conversation I hoped I would never have to force.
2 days before the memorial dinner, I found Daniel in the garage, sorting through a box of his father's old tools. I stood in the doorway and watched him hold a rusted wrench like it was something holy.
On Sunday, I said, "When your mother talks about this house, I need you to tell the truth." He did not turn around right away. What truth? I hated that question more than any answer he could have given. The truth about who helped keep it, I said. The truth about my name being on those papers. The truth about why this house is still here. Daniel set the wrench down carefully. "Can we not do this before Dad's memorial?" I nodded because I had expected that. "That's why I'm asking before it."
He looked tired, defensive, cornered by facts he already knew.
"You're making it sound like I lied." "No," I said. "I'm saying you let a lie become tradition." For a moment, the garage was so quiet, I could hear the neighbor's dog barking 2 houses over.
Daniel looked away first. And that was when I knew I needed the folder with me on Sunday. Sunday came with the kind of quiet that makes every sound feel too loud.
Margaret arrived first, carrying a glass dish covered in foil and wearing the pearl earrings she saved for church events. Sarah came later with a bakery pie. Daniel moved around the kitchen like a man trying to look useful without touching anything important. I had cooked less than usual.
Margaret noticed immediately.
"Oh," she said, "you didn't use the blue serving dishes."
"No," I said, "I used mine." It was a small sentence, almost nothing, but Daniel looked up because he heard what Margaret didn't.
Dinner was polite in the way uncomfortable families know how to be polite. Margaret told the same story about Frank fixing the porch railing, and everyone smiled because they knew where to smile.
I kept waiting for Daniel. Not for a miracle, just for one honest sentence.
After dessert, Margaret stood near photos of Frank. She lifted her glass and spoke about loyalty, roots, and men who kept their promises. Then she looked at Daniel.
"Your father would be proud," she said. "You kept this house in Carter hands." Daniel stared at the table.
Margaret continued, "A home like this is history. It survives because family protects it." I looked at Daniel one last time.
He did not speak.
Then Margaret smiled toward me, soft and sharp. "And some people are blessed to be welcomed into that history." That was the line. I set my napkin beside my plate and stood.
Daniel's face changed, Emily.
I looked at him. "I gave you before now."
The room went quiet. I picked up the folder and placed it on the table. I did not throw it. I had promised myself I would not give anyone a reason to pretend my tone mattered more than the truth. "Margaret," I said, "this house almost didn't stay in Carter hands." Her smile stiffened. "I don't think this is appropriate."
"I know," I said. "Neither was letting me be treated like a guest in a house I helped save." Sarah looked between us. "What are you talking about?"
So I kept it simple. Dates, documents, boundaries. 3 years earlier, the mortgage had needed restructuring. The roof had needed repair. The property taxes were behind. Daniel's income alone had not been enough to fix it quickly. My credit, my savings, my paperwork, and my calls were part of why the house was still standing. I slid one page towards Sarah, not the whole folder, just the timeline. She read the first few lines, then looked at Daniel. "Is this true?" Daniel closed his eyes. That tiny pause filled the room everywhere. "Yes," he said quietly, "it's true." Margaret gripped her glass. "Daniel, why would you let me present it like this?" For the first time, he did not look to me to make the room easier. "Because I should have said it before," he answered. Nobody clapped. Nobody gasped. Sarah stared at the page. Margaret sat down, stunned that the story she had repeated for years no longer belonged only to her. "I was embarrassed," Daniel said. "I let Mom think I handled more than I should. I let Emily carry the part that made me feel weak. I thought hearing him admit it would feel satisfying. It didn't. It felt late." Margaret tried once more. "I was protecting your father's memory." I shook my head. "No, you were protecting a version of this family where I could be useful, but never central." After that, there was nothing clean left to say. The dinner ended awkwardly. Sarah hugged me at the door and whispered. I didn't know, I believed her, but not knowing did not erase what she had repeated. Margaret left without apologizing. I had not expected one.
When the house was finally quiet, Daniel and I stood in the kitchen surrounded by half-empty glasses.
"I'm sorry," he said. I nodded. "I believe you." His eyes lifted with hope I wished I could reward. "But believing you're sorry doesn't mean I can keep living like this." Over the next few weeks, nothing fixed itself overnight. Daniel started counseling with me. Margaret stopped dropping by without calling. Sarah sent a longer apology, and this time she did not explain herself inside it. The house remained the same house, same porch, tired fence, same light by the door. But I was not the same woman standing inside it. I used to think belonging meant being welcomed by people who arrived before me. Now I know better. If a family needs your labor, your signature, your silence, and your sacrifice, but still calls you a guest, maybe the question is not how to earn your place.
Maybe the question is why you are still waiting for permission to stand there.